Hong Kong, 1964. The back alley behind a local restaurant grew quiet as five men formed a circle around one small figure. Bruce Lee stood in the center, his hands relaxed at his sides, his expression calm. These weren't actors. These weren't stuntmen rehearsing a scene. These were real fighters from a local martial arts school, and they had come with one purpose: to humiliate the man who dared to teach kung fu to non-Chinese students. "You think you're so special?" the leader sneered, cracking his knuckles. "Let's see if your fancy moves work in a real fight." Bruce didn't respond with words. He simply adjusted his stance and waited. What happened in the next 3 minutes would change martial arts history forever, and it was all captured by a witness who would later tell the world what real combat looked like. Before we continue this incredible story, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss stories about legends who changed the world. Your support keeps these amazing tales alive. Bruce Lee wasn't born a legend. He was born Lee Junfan in San Francisco's Chinatown in 1940, but his family moved back to Hong Kong when he was just 3 months old. His childhood wasn't filled with glory. It was filled with street fights, teenage rebellion, and a burning desire to prove himself. In Hong Kong during the 1950s, Bruce was a troubled kid. He got into constant fights with rival gangs. His parents worried he would end up in serious trouble or worse. That's when his father made a decision that would change everything. He enrolled young Bruce in martial arts training under the legendary Master Ip Man, who taught a fighting style called Wing Chun. Bruce trained obsessively. While other teenagers were out having fun, he was practicing punches, perfecting his kicks, studying the philosophy behind every movement. He didn't just want to learn how to fight. He wanted to understand why techniques worked, how the human body moved, and what made one fighter better than another. But traditional kung fu schools in Hong Kong had strict rules. The most important rule: never teach martial arts to foreigners. It was considered a betrayal of Chinese culture to share these secrets with Westerners. When Bruce moved back to America at age 18 and started teaching kung fu to students of all races in Seattle, the traditional martial arts community was outraged. Letters arrived from Hong Kong. Phone calls were made. The message was clear: stop teaching non-Chinese students or face the consequences. Bruce refused. He believed martial arts should be available to everyone, regardless of their race or background. "Water doesn't discriminate," he would say. "It flows wherever it can. Knowledge should be the same." The tension built for months. Traditional masters saw Bruce as arrogant, disrespectful, and dangerous to their ancient traditions. Bruce saw them as closed-minded and stuck in the past. Something had to give. In 1964, representatives from the traditional martial arts schools in Oakland, California, issued a formal challenge. If Bruce lost, he would have to either stop teaching non-Chinese students or close his school entirely. If he won, they would leave him alone. Bruce accepted immediately. The day of the challenge arrived with gray skies hanging over Oakland. Bruce's students were nervous. They had seen their teacher's incredible speed and power during training, but this was different. This was a real fight with real consequences. If Bruce lost, everything they had built together would disappear. Bruce's wife, Linda, was 7 months pregnant with their first child. She watched her husband prepare, knowing the danger he faced. "Are you sure about this?" she asked quietly. Bruce looked at her with absolute certainty. "I have to do this. Not just for me. For everyone who believes that martial arts should belong to the world, not hidden away by tradition." The location was a kung fu school in Oakland's Chinatown. When Bruce arrived with his students, he could feel the hostility in the air. The traditional masters sat in chairs along the walls, their faces stern and disapproving. In the center of the room stood Wong Jack Man, the fighter chosen to represent the traditional schools. Wong Jack Man was no amateur. He was highly skilled in Northern Shaolin Kung Fu and had trained for years in classical techniques. He was taller than Bruce, with a longer reach and a reputation for being unbeatable in challenge matches. The traditional masters had chosen him specifically because they believed he could defeat Bruce decisively. The rules were simple but brutal: no rules. This wasn't a sport with referees and safety regulations. This was a real fight that would continue until one man couldn't continue or admitted defeat. Bruce stood across from Wong Jack Man, his body loose and ready. The room grew silent except for the sound of breathing. Then, without warning or ceremony, the fight began. Wong Jack Man moved first, launching a series of fast punches and traditional kung fu techniques that had been perfected over centuries. His movements were textbook perfect, exactly what the masters had taught him. But Bruce didn't respond with traditional techniques. He moved in ways that confused everyone watching. Instead of matching Wong's formal stance, Bruce shifted constantly, his body alive with energy. When Wong threw a punch, Bruce wasn't where the punch landed. When Wong tried to grab him, Bruce was already attacking from a different angle. This wasn't the kung fu anyone recognized. This was something new. The traditional masters began to whisper among themselves. This wasn't how martial arts was supposed to look. Where was the classical form? Where was the respect for ancient techniques? Bruce was fighting like street combat, like real violence. It was crude. It was effective. It was terrifying. Bruce landed the first significant blow, a straight punch that snapped Wong's head back. The traditional masters gasped. That wasn't a classical kung fu technique. That was closer to Western boxing. Then Bruce followed with a low kick that nearly swept Wong's legs. Again, not traditional. Again, devastatingly effective. Wong Jack Man tried to retreat, to create distance and reset to his classical training. But Bruce pursued him relentlessly. The fight moved from the center of the room toward the walls. Students scrambled out of the way as the two fighters crashed through the space. Bruce's students couldn't believe what they were seeing. This wasn't the controlled, philosophical teacher they knew from the training hall. This was a fighter unleashed, fast, aggressive, overwhelming. Every technique Bruce used had one purpose: to win. Not to look beautiful. Not to honor tradition. To win. The fight lasted 3 minutes, though it felt like hours to everyone watching. Wong Jack Man was backpedaling constantly now, his defense breaking down under Bruce's relentless assault. He tried to grapple, to use his size advantage, but Bruce escaped every attempt and countered with strikes that were accumulating damage. Finally, Wong Jack Man made a mistake. He turned his back, trying to create separation. In traditional kung fu, turning your back to an opponent is considered the ultimate sign of disrespect or defeat. Bruce seized the moment, launching a flying kick that drove Wong forward into the wall. The traditional masters jumped to their feet. Some were shouting for the fight to stop. Others were arguing about whether Bruce's techniques were even legitimate kung fu. In the confusion, Wong Jack Man raised his hand in surrender. The fight was over. Bruce stood in the center of the room, breathing hard but barely marked. Wong Jack Man slumped against the wall, defeated. The traditional masters were silent now, their champion beaten, their certainty shattered. But Bruce wasn't celebrating. As his students crowded around him with congratulations, he felt something unexpected: disappointment. The fight had been too hard. It had taken too long. He should have been able to defeat Wong Jack Man in seconds, not minutes. If this was the best he could do, then he wasn't good enough yet. The victory should have felt triumphant. But Bruce went home that night troubled. Linda found him sitting alone in their small apartment, staring at his hands. "You won," she said gently. "You proved them wrong." "I was too slow," Bruce replied, his voice tight with frustration. 3 minutes against one man. What if there had been 2? 3. I need to be better. Faster. More efficient. This moment of dissatisfaction became the turning point of Bruce Lee's entire philosophy. Instead of celebrating his victory, he broke down everything he thought he knew about martial arts and started rebuilding from scratch. He studied Western boxing and discovered that their punches were faster than traditional kung fu strikes. He studied fencing and learned about distance and timing. He studied philosophy and realized that rigid adherence to tradition was actually limiting his potential. Water, he thought, doesn't fight against the container. It becomes the container. From this realization came Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. It wasn't a new style of kung fu. It was a philosophy that rejected styles altogether. Take what works, discard what doesn't, and adapt constantly. No classical forms. No rigid traditions. Just pure effectiveness. Bruce's school in Oakland became the birthplace of modern mixed martial arts, though that term wouldn't exist for decades. Students of all races trained together, learning that effective fighting had nothing to do with preserving ancient traditions and everything to do with understanding reality. The traditional masters who had challenged him slowly began to understand. Some remained bitter, convinced Bruce had betrayed his heritage, but others, quietly, started to question their own rigid beliefs. If a small man like Bruce Lee could defeat larger, traditionally trained fighters, what did that say about their centuries-old methods? Within a few years, Bruce's reputation spread beyond the martial arts community. Hollywood came calling. The television series, The Green Hornet, gave him his first major role as Kato, the sidekick who often stole the show with his incredible fight scenes. Then came the movies that would make him a global icon. The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, and finally, Enter the Dragon. But Bruce never forgot that day in Oakland. Every movie fight scene was built on the lessons he learned from that 3-minute challenge. Every philosophy he shared came from that moment of dissatisfaction with his own performance. The fight that proved he was right also showed him how much further he had to go. Bruce Lee died tragically young at just 32 years old in 1973, but his impact on martial arts and popular culture continues today. Every mixed martial arts fighter who steps into the UFC octagon is using principles Bruce pioneered. Take techniques from different styles, test them in real combat, and keep only what works. But the real lesson from that day in Oakland isn't about fighting techniques. It's about having the courage to challenge tradition when tradition becomes an obstacle to truth. Those 5 traditional masters, represented by Wong Jack Man, weren't evil men. They were protecting something they believed was sacred. But Bruce understood that knowledge hoarded becomes stagnant, while knowledge shared grows stronger. The story also teaches us about humility and victory. Bruce won the fight, but his first thought wasn't celebration. It was self-improvement. He asked himself, how can I be better? That mindset of constant growth, of never being satisfied with good enough, is what separated Bruce Lee from everyone else. Today, martial arts schools around the world teach students of every race, gender, and background. Traditional kung fu schools have opened their doors. The rigid rules that once divided fighting styles have given way to cross-training and mutual respect. Bruce Lee's vision of martial arts as a universal language has become reality. When you face opposition for doing what you believe is right, remember Bruce standing alone in that Oakland school, facing warriors determined to make him quit. He could have walked away. He could have compromised. Instead, he stood his ground, fought his fight, and changed the world. The question Bruce Lee would ask you is simple. Are you more committed to defending tradition or to discovering truth? Are you willing to face the 5 opponents in your own life? The doubters, the gatekeepers, the people who say, that's not how we do things, and prove them wrong? True martial arts isn't about fighting with your fists. It's about fighting for what matters, even when the odds are against you. If this story of courage and determination inspired you, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about standing up for what's right. Leave a comment below telling us about a time you had to challenge tradition or face opposition. Your story might inspire others, just like Bruce Lee's story inspired millions. See you in the next video, where we'll explore more legends who refused to accept limitations. Be like water, my friend. Water can flow, or it can crash. Be water. Bruce Lee.